Oh, hi. Long time no see. Yeah, I've had quite a week. Or 2 weeks, I guess. It's kind of hard to keep track of time. You see, after I had my little excursion the other day, while I was trying to hitch a ride, I accidentally walked out into traffic and got hit by 10 moving trucks. The bad news is that I died almost instantly, which makes the other 9 trucks really unnecessary. The good news is that I was reborn into this awesome new world where I have a much better camera and still kind of shitty audio. So, seeing how I have some personal experience on the matter, I figured today we'd take some time to talk about Isekai. Now, Isekai is a subgenre of anime, literally meaning another world. Usually the premise involves taking a normal character, lifting them up, and putting them into a strange foreign world, usually by magic or technology or something like that. Now, the genre has been around for a long time. Back then, they typically appealed more to a female audience. They would feature, primarily girl main characters, and they tended to take more of a backseat for male audiences to stuff like shonen series, action series, sports series, that sort of thing. But starting in the early 2010s, Isekai as a subgenre had a massive resurgence. Couldn't tell you why. A higher output of authors producing stories in light novel form and manga form created a lot more source material that could be easily adapted into anime. And so it wasn't all that uncommon to see at least one isekai per season, if not way more. Luckily, that simple fish out of water premise is so easily applicable to such a wide variety of concepts that really the amount of totally unique and diverse stories you can tell are pretty much limitless. And odds are you've seen a couple of these shows, even if maybe you didn't realize it at the time, although usually they're pretty well advertised at this point. And so that's pretty much the subject of today's video. I just wanted to discuss how diverse and unique all of these isekai series are. Starting with, that one about the high school boy that touches a magic stone and then gets transported to a medieval fantasy world. Or how about that one where the high school boy and high school girl touch a magic device and get transported to a medieval fantasy world, but with their teacher. Or the one about the high school girl and her friends who get transported to another world by a demon and then have to go and hunt down the Demon King. Or the one about the high school boy who gets swirlied so hard that he gets transported to a medieval fantasy world where Gunther von Christ takes him to Bloodstained Palace so that he can become the next Demon King. Or the one about the middle-aged man who gets summoned to another world by an elf and a cat girl and finds out that he is already a Demon King. Or the one about the high school boy that gets summoned to another world by a mage and who is also already a demon king. Just kidding, he's a slave. Or the one about the high school girl that gets summoned to another world with her friends by some handsome man who immediately leaves them for dead to fend for themselves. Or the one about the 3 psychic magical girls that get transported to a different magic world where they have to save a community that has just been tarnished by poor management. I'm just kidding again, it's a Demon King. Or the one about the middle school boy that gets summoned to a medieval fantasy world, but it aired on 4Kids. Or that one about the blue hedgehog that gets transported to a medieval, modern day world where he has to fight a giant egg and play baseball, I guess. No Demon Lord, but definitely aired on 4Kids. Or the one about the also blue-haired boy who gets pawned off by his parents to a demon that enrolls him at a demon academy, and there's probably also a Demon Lord involved there too. Or the one about the brother and sister that get transported to another world where all of the conflicts are solved with games like chess and Shiratori, and unfortunately they don't win the game that allows them to have a second season. Or the one about the guy who's summoned to another world and he's ridiculously overpowered, but also overly cautious. The name escapes me at the moment. Or the one about the exceptional girl that dies and is reborn in another world as a totally average girl. Again, just kidding, she's overpowered. Or the one about the high school boy and girl that get summoned to another world and are killed immediately by beasts. Just kidding. And once again, cheat is literally in the name of this one. Or the one about the high school graduate. Wow, that's a first. Good for him. That gets transported to another world where he, and I quote, produces star children with the star maidens in order to combat impurities. Wow, that's a first. Good for him. Or the one about the 7 prodigies that crash land a plane into a medieval fantasy world where they use the power of, I guess, winning the genetic lottery to convert the medieval land to capitalism, and also there's a magician. Or that one about the high school boy who wakes up in another world where all of Japan's historical warlords are cute girls. That one about all of Japan's historical warlords, not cute girls this time, sorry, getting transported into another world so that they can all participate in this giant war. Or that one about the boy that gets transported to a world populated by only cute dog girls. Sorry, no Japanese warlords this time. Oh, and there's that one about the boy that gets transported to another world, except that his mom is there. Or even the one about the boy that gets transported to another world, except that Goofy is there. Or the one about the otaku who gets transported to a medieval fantasy world, but it's actually a subversion of common isekai tropes. Or the one where an otaku is transported to another world, and it's a subversion of isekai tropes, except people actually watched this one. Or the one about the otaku who gets transported to another world, and he just has a really bad time over and over and over again, and I would elaborate more, but honestly, I'm kind of sick of time loops. Or the one about the man who gets hit by a train and is reborn as a little evil girl in magic Nazi town. Or the one about the otaku who gets trapped in an MMORPG based on a medieval fantasy world, and also he is a skeleton. Or the one where the last 4 shows get all mashed up together into a slice of life school comedy? Or that one about the otaku who gets transported to an MMORPG based on a medieval fantasy world, except he's a skeleton, and also all of the other parts that usually make up a person. Or that one about the 6 people who get transported into an MMORPG-esque medieval fantasy world, except that you can die. I think that's really the only thing that this one has. Or that one about the entire MMORPG player base getting transported into the game where eating sucks for a couple of weeks. Or the one about the girl that, and get this, gets transported into a visual novel set in a medieval fantasy world where she is the villain and she has to stop herself from dying at the end of each visual novel route. I didn't watch it, but I heard it was good. Or that one about the programmer that gets transported into the game he's working on, which is a modern military battle royale. Of course, I'm just kidding. It's a medieval fantasy world. And man, game dev crunch really is getting kind of nuts. Or that one that is just Overlord, but with skin. Or the other digital isekai where... Or that one where the high school boy gets struck by lightning and is reborn in another world, but with his cell phone. Or that one where the high school boy gets transported to another world, but with his cell phone. And slaves. Is this even an isekai? That might not be an isekai. I may have made that up. Realist hero rebuilt the kingdom. Summoned to another world and his adventure did not begin. Yes, realist hero. How a realist hero rebuilt the kingdom is in fact an isekai. I had to look that one up because the line gets kind of blurry sometimes. Or that one where the realist hero does boring politics stuff to make a kingdom work in another world. That's important. It's in another world. Again, Google search confirmed. Or that one where the demon lord actually gets transported into our world and he works at a McDonald's, and because he's making minimum wage, he can't afford to get a second season for the show. That joke really hurt to write. Or that one where a bunch of anime and manga and video game characters all get transported to our world and they go on a big existential adventure, and please, for the love of God, just watch Recreators. It's like the best show on this list. Or that one where the medieval fantasy world and our world merge together, and so a fairy and a detective go on a buddy cop adventure. Or that one where the medieval fantasy world world and our world merge, and so the army blows them the fuck up. Or that one where 3 people and literally a fucking tank get transported to a medieval fantasy world. Or that one where an otaku is transported to another world, except he has a shield. Or that one where an otaku is transported to another world, except he has a gun. Or that one where an otaku is transported to another world, except he has a mech. Or that one where a high school boy is transported to another world, except he has a mech and is an assassin. That's all I got. Okay, or that one where a scientist transports himself to a fantasy world, where he teams up with a blue hedgehog to pilot Gundams in space, and it aired on 4Kids, and I'm pretty sure we actually already talked about this one. Or that one where a high school boy gets transported to another world, except he has a mech, and it was made in the 80s. Or that one where a high school girl gets transported to another world, except she has a mech, and it was made in the 90s. Or the one where a high school girl is transported to another world, and then her and her fox friend kind of just say each other's names for like 167 episodes. Or Garzy's Wing.
Shiratori? This must be the place where Yamato Takeru no Mikoto came down from the sky. What the heck is this now?
Then why don't we live together somewhere else, my friend?
If you had a convenience store, then I would live with you. But I know there are no vending machines here either. Oh my god, I felt like I was having a dream. I think we are still one person. We die together? Probably.
Yup. Garzy's Wing. Or that one where the high school boy gets transported to another world, and gosh fucking golly, does he just have the worst time ever. And it was made in the 90s. Or the one where the high school girls get transported into another world and then it was adapted into an RPG on the Sega Saturn. Or the one where the students get transported to another world, but it's just ancient China. Or this really generic isekai that was made in China. Or the one where the president of the United States gets nuked all the way to Mousetown. I'm not making this one up. Or the one where the wrestler gets transported to another world and he kind of just suplexes medieval residents. Or the one about the salaryman that opens a potion shop in another world. Or the one about the restaurant in another world. Or the one about the restaurant in another world. Or the one about 3 students getting transported to another world in order to protect their town. Or even the one about 2 kids that stay in the same town, but that town becomes another world. How about the one where the musician gets transported to a similar modern world where the Beatles don't exist? We got that too. Or the one where the salaryman is reborn into a medieval fantasy world and grows up to be an overpowered mage. Or the one about a salaryman who is reborn into a medieval fantasy world as a baby and then grows up to be an overpowered mage. Or the one about the otaku who is reborn into another world as a baby and then grows into a child who is an overpowered mage. Or the one where a soon-to-be librarian is killed and is reborn in another world as a 5-year-old, and she just kind of wants to read books. Or the one where the salaryman is stabbed in the street and is reincarnated in a medieval fantasy world as an overpowered goo boy. And I'm also upset I said that. Or the one about the girl that, you know, she reincarnates and kills goo boys for like 300 years. The art's pretty good. Or the one where the Demon King blows up an entire classroom of students, and the worst student is reincarnated into a near future, postmodern, cyberpunk. This is actually the wrong script. It's a medieval fantasy world and she's a spider. Or the one about the guy, blah, 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 he's a sword. Or the whatever, who cares about the man and he, another world and a vending machine. Fuck you, whatever. So anyway, I got a little sidetracked. Isekai, the thing about Isekai anime, what was the point? What was I talking about? What was the point I was trying to make? I covered it, right? You guys got the idea, right? I think I nailed it. I think I got it. So yeah, that's the video. In the end, Isekai, a diverse treasure trove of completely unique and original stories. Okay, so when you die in the game, you die in real life.